Michael Jordan empezó a arrasar en campeonatos con tan solo 19 años. Como estudiante de primer año en Carolina del Norte, ya entonces anotó el tiro más importante del partido por el título de la NCAA.
Well, for Michael Jordan, his legendary stature begins here at the University of North Carolina. Interestingly enough, when Michael came into college, he wasn't thought of as going to be the savior to North Carolina. North Carolina was already #1 team in the nation. So all of a sudden he comes into this talented team where he could develop and learn his skills and learn his craft. And I think that was the best thing for him. The game between North Carolina and Georgetown. This game is so important because you have 3 top 75 players playing in this game. Patrick Ewing was probably the premier player in college basketball, along with James Worthy. And now you're adding Michael Jordan to the mix. Michael became a focal point inside of the game that I don't know if Georgetown was aware of or was ready for. I think Michael Jordan hitting that game-winning shot propelled him into a great stratosphere of confidence. This is where he honed his skills to become the greatest basketball player that we've ever seen.
Como antesala a los Juegos Olímpicos de 1984, Michael Jordan lleva a la selección estadounidense de jugadores amateur hasta la victoria ante un equipo formado por estrellas de la NBA en Indianápolis.
The first time I ever saw Michael Jordan was in 1981 at the McDonald's All-American game in Wichita, Kansas. As soon as I saw him on the court, he was different. Every practice session was like Game 7. And he did that relentlessly every single session. Okay, he's dominating us. He's the best player in the gym by far. We see this. But can he do it against NBA players at that next level? 1984 Olympic team, we went on somewhat of an NBA tour against NBA All-Stars to prepare for the Olympics in LA. All the stars showed up. Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Kevin McHale. The best player on the court was Michael Jordan, this junior from the University of North Carolina. And I think ultimately, it was the preview of the greatest player of all time coming on the scene.
La llegada, Chicago Bulls vs Boston Celtics, 20 de abril de 1986. Michael Jordan salta a la fama mundial al anotar 63 puntos en los playoffs de la NBA contra uno de los estelares Celtics, récord que sigue vigente hoy en día.
Michael was extremely competitive in everything he did. In Michael's second year, the Bulls were not any good, and we were the Boston Celtics, and we were on our way as one of the greatest teams ever to play basketball at any level, at any time. In game 1, we kill them. Larry, Kevin, Chief, Danny, DJ, they have great games. And at the end of the game, we look at the box score, and this guy named Michael Jordan, he's got 49 points. We just said, well, yeah, he's pretty darn good, but he'll never do that again. Game 2 takes 41 shots, makes 22 of them, takes 21 free throws and makes 19 of them and goes for 63 points. The Celtics are able to win the game in double overtime, 135 to 131. But we knew how lucky we had been to win that game because Michael was just so spectacular. That was the game where Larry Bird, in his post-game media comments, said, "I've just seen God disguised as Michael Jordan." And the rest is history.
Estrella entre estrellas, All-Star del Este contra All-Star del Oeste. Michael Jordan se afianza como uno de los mejores jugadores de la NBA y es declarado MVP al conseguir números estelares y anotar los tiros decisivos de un partido que se saldó con la victoria del Este por 138 a 133.
The thing that I liked most about Michael Jordan as a player was the fact that I didn't have to try to guard him. If you had a poor defensive scheme, he was going to fill the hoop up until you either figured it out or the game was over and you lost the game. Some of his acrobatic drives to the hoop are just remarkable. You know, he can get past the defense and use a little bit of English off of the glass. The ball drops in so nice. It takes some really advanced skills to do that consistently. The 1988 All-Star Game was a showcase for Michael. Michael had figured out all the things he needed to know to be a dominant player. Everything. One-on-one, couldn't guard him. What Michael Jordan showed the whole sports world was the fact that you put the right people with him, he's going to lead them to world championships, without question. He was a prime example of excellence and a leader that would lead you all the way to the top, all the way to the top. That was basketball at its finest.
El tiro, Chicago Bulls vs Cleveland Cavaliers. El tiro, que sacó a los Cleveland Cavaliers de las playoffs de la Conferencia del Este en el 89, es uno de los momentos memorables de la carrera de Michael Jordan.
You know, when Michael Jordan is coming to town, you always wanted to get a good night's sleep, a good night rest, something good to eat, because you know the next day Michael Jordan is in your building and he's coming to put on a show, and you have to compete against that. Game 5 was at our place, and you know, a typical game, Eastern Conference game, a physical game, it was like a back and forth thing, the shot. You know, everybody want to talk about the shot. Chicago kept fighting, MJ kept making plays. It's at the end of the game, and we going to the timeout, and everybody talking. I was like, Coach, I want to guard MJ. Like, I got to guard MJ. There's only one player that's getting this basketball, and that's MJ. He's like, we're going to put Craig Elo on there. I'm like, and he jumped up, and Elo jumps up, Elo stops, and MJ does this to Elo. Elo comes down, and he shoots it, and it was slow motion. And it was like, he's the guy that you want the ball in his hand late in the ball game, because he's gonna win most of those ball games by himself.
Lanzamientos: Atlanta Hawks vs Chicago Bulls, un trepidante toma y daca entre dos de los matadores más espectaculares de la NBA, Michael Jordan y Dominic Wilkins, cuyas técnicas teatrales tienen en vilo a un público boquiabierto.
Michael was a different level, man. He's a different level of competitiveness, just sheer will to win. He changed the game. He changed the game. I mean, not just in one aspect, in many aspects, in every aspect of the game, he changed it. I played against some greatest players in the history of this game. Michael Jordan was one of those guys that lifted my ability to the next level. We enjoyed the competition with one another. We played very hard and fiercely against one another, but it was like you had two gentlemen going head to head. Michael Jordan and I wasn't just coming down the court getting dunks at the dunks. We found creative ways to score. I can't tell you the fun and the pleasure I had to play against him. You know, and Michael and I, we never really talked about those games. It was kind of an unspoken thing between us. You know, the respect level that we had was at a different level. I think I had a great game in Atlanta, and I remember going to Chicago. Michael walks into our locker room, and we're still in suit and tie. We haven't gotten dressed yet, and he walks in our locker room, suit and tie, and I was like, what are you doing coming in our locker room? And I ain't gonna say exactly what I said. And so he walked by me, he walked by Kevin Willis, and he got to Randy Whitman, he tapped him on his butt, and he said, lace him up, it's gonna be a long night. He got 60 that night. He got 60. And it was a very close game. I think it went down to the last shot in that game, but I think he proved his point.
69 puntos. Chicago Bulls vs Cleveland Cavaliers. Ayudado por cierta motivación especial, Michael Jordan bate el récord de su carrera con 69 puntos en una victoria en la temporada regular contra los Cleveland Cavaliers, 117 contra 113. 28 de marzo de 1990.
You think about the most complete basketball player, Michael Jordan was it. That year we won 56, 57, 58 games, something like that. We were really good. If you were going to beat us, you had to do something special. And I knew what we were up against in him. You knew it was going to be a daunting task. You're going to play your best basketball, and he's just not going to have an off game. And you're trying to make sure you manage everyone else, and hopefully he has a few misses here or there. They were struggling, and so Michael, I vividly remember one play, he came off of a screen, and he was really supposed to kick the ball to the corner, but he turned the corner, he went to the basket. And I was like, oh, okay. And he took it upon himself to score. Went to overtime, and he was just unstoppable. And he scored, obviously 69 points. He had almost 20 rebounds. So it was remarkable to watch that and to be a part of that, because we had done everything right. And even defending him, we were getting into him, and he was taking tough shots. He was just making them. Michael Jordan took what they did to the next level because of his explosiveness, his swag, his demeanor, and ultimately his success.
Bad Boy. Detroit Pistons vs Chicago Bulls, 26 de mayo de 1990. A pesar de la estrategia defensiva de los Detroit Pistons, conocida como las reglas de Jordan, Jordan logra anotar 47 puntos y lleva a los Bulls a la victoria en el partido 3 de la final de la Conferencia del Este en 1990.
Michael Jordan's flair, charisma, control, understanding the game. Nobody can do that. He was so graceful with the basketball, and he would change gears on you and change direction really, really quick. It's just amazing, man. If you see it, in person, it's like, we're like, oh, we start a fast break, somebody's gonna get dunked on, and it's gonna be Michael dunking on somebody. In the 1990 Eastern Conference Finals, I think the Bulls was really getting to figure us out. Joe Dumars used to guard him first because that's the beginning of the game. Then once he got out the game, I had to go guard him. I don't think anybody else could have guarded him. John Salley, Rick Mahorn, Bill Laimbeer, no. Whenever he got the ball, I'm pretty much like nose to nose with him because I didn't want him to do anything to embarrass me. I named the Jordan rule. If he goes to the hole, put him on the ground. If you see some of those clips, you'll see that we just hit him every time he goes to the basket. And he's always on the ground, like in pain. But he always gets back up. He learned after a while, man, that he just took control from there. I think people really saw one of the best performances in the NBA when Michael played against us. And we didn't let anyone do that against us. But almost put 50 on us quick. Check his resume out. It's awesome. It's like, wow, this guy is amazing.
Comienza una dinastía, Chicago Bulls vs Los Angeles Lakers de Magic Johnson. Fluyendo con la defensa, Michael Jordan no solo anota 30 puntos, sino que además facilita a sus compañeros ocasiones claras de tiro para vencer a los Lakers y hacerse con su primer campeonato de la NBA. 12 de junio de 1991.
Michael Jordan was royalty. He was Elvis Presley. He was the Beatles. It was Michael Jordan versus the NBA. He was that good, and he had a charisma that was unique to him, but also that killer instinct of wanting to win. When Michael Jordan came into town, the Great Western Forum became the place to be. You couldn't live your life if you didn't get a chance to see Michael Jordan perform in person. When the Lakers and the Bulls faced each other in that 1991 finals, it was that moment where you could really say sports and entertainment were coming together. When the Bulls won that series, right there you saw like kind of the passing of the torch. What Michael did and what Michael accomplished and represented in the 90s inspired the next generation of talent. Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time.
Encogimiento de hombros. Portland Trail Blazers vs Chicago Bulls. En el primer partido de la final de la NBA en 1992, Michael Jordan anota 6 triples en la primera mitad, que contribuirían a los 35 puntos que termina anotando y asegurando la victoria sobre Portland. 3 de junio de 1992, finales de la NBA, partido 1.
When Michael Jordan played in Chicago, the crowd just went crazy to another decibel level. And I'd get the chills every time. He played with such a fury. He was electric on the court. Before the Shrug game, the game against Portland in the NBA Finals, the public relations people couldn't find Michael. The reason was he was on the court taking three-point shots, and he was not noted as a three-point shooter. We asked him about it. He said, well, you know, you never know when a three-point shot might come in handy. Obviously, he had figured something out, that he was going to surprise them, but you have to hit the shots. This incredible onslaught of threes takes place in the first half, and he hit 6 of them. That was unheard of at that time for anyone. He looks over at our broadcast table and gives that shrug. And I think what I took out of that most, it showed his humility, that he could not believe that he hit 6 three-pointers. That was, I thought, one of the incredible moments in playoff history. I would have to go with Jordan as the GOAT.
Los equipos siempre están motivados en las finales de la NBA. Aunque no estén hablando bien, los Blazers ahora mismo están motivadísimos. Los campeones vigentes, los Bulls, están diciendo que los Portland son un tigre de papel y que aunque tienen mucho talento se queman enseguida. ¿Podrán los Blazers cambiar la historia para conseguir escribir su propio capítulo? Níquel doble, Chicago Bulls vs New York Knicks. Michael Jordan demuestra que ha regresado oficialmente jugando de forma espectacular en Nueva York y anotando 55 puntos que valen la victoria contra los Knicks.
Michael changed the game because everyone tried to do the things that he did. He would drive down, dunk on people with the tongue wagging and all that stuff. What he became, the evolution, I mean, it was like, wow. When you have a guy with the kind of notoriety, the kind of popularity that Michael has, is good for the whole entire league. You know, y'all keep calling it the double nickel game. He dropped 55, and you know, he made a move to get to the free throw line, and I thought he was going up for the shot, and I go to try to block the shot. He dishes it off to Bill Winnington. He dunks it. That game was the coming out party for him. You know, he showed the league, the world, that he was still great, and he went on to win 3 more championships. According to him, he retired for 2 years to give the rest of us an opportunity to try to win a title. And according to him, I didn't take advantage of it, so he had to come back to show the world that he's the man.
Victoria de Día del Padre. En un emotivo Día del Padre, Michael Jordan establece un récord de la temporada de 72 victorias y gana su 4º título. Dedica el campeonato a su padre fallecido 3 años antes. Seattle Supersonics vs Chicago Bulls, 16 de junio de 1996, finales de la NBA, partido 6.
When you win 6 championships and win MVPs and win scoring titles, you have to be considered one of the best. Michael Jordan had that and more. Going into the 1996 series against the Chicago Bulls, I was the defensive player of the year. Michael was the MVP, and they had made a big deal about it. But I think my mindset was just to go in there and contain him, make him take uncomfortable shots, make him take something that's not in his rhythm, and give us a chance to win, and make other players beat us. Kukoc stepped up,
Pippen stepped up. A lot of players stepped up. Michael Jordan stepped up in Game 6. He got smart about it by attacking us and getting us in situations where we're getting in foul trouble, and then we couldn't do nothing about it. In these games, I was saying anything I wanted to say to Mike, and it went back and forth, and he didn't back down. He was always strong, and he always came at me, and I loved it. I think he's one of the greatest basketball players to ever play the game.
Dicen que es imposible, que ningún equipo puede recuperarse de un 3-0 en una serie, pero los Sonics se han alejado del abismo y ahora están listos para remontar. Esta noche se acerca el final de la serie y son sus oponentes, los Bulls, los que parecen agotados. Los dieron por perdidos, pero ¿serán capaces de llegar a la tierra prometida? El partido de la gripe. Michael Jordan añade un hito a su leyenda de competidor implacable cuando sobrelleva los síntomas de una gripe para dar la victoria a su equipo contra los Utah Jazz en un partido 5 decisivo en las finales de la NBA de 1997. 11 de junio 1997, finales de la NBA, partido 5, el partido de la gripe.
You know, I feel fortunate to have been covering the Bulls at that time and being so close to watch this transformation of this young man just becoming the greatest basketball player that's ever played. Nothing could ever stop him from winning. It was all about winning. The flu game, they called it. It could have been the pizza game because he thought it was food poisoning and he looks horrible. He could barely talk, you know, and I didn't want to keep asking about how you feel, this and that and the other. I could just see it in his eyes. I think he realized the situation. You have an opportunity to win a championship, and it can go away. We're not going to wait till you get better and then play the next week. The thing that always brought the greatness out in him was a challenge, and he was just zoned in, and there was nothing that was going to stop him from playing his best and winning that basketball game.
En su primer duelo de verdad, un ya consolidado Michael Jordan y un prometedor Kobe Bryant miden fuerzas. Jordan sale victorioso, marcando la distancia con la futura superestrella, la Mamba Negra. Pasa el testigo, Los Ángeles Lakers versus los Chicago Bulls, 17 de diciembre de 1997, temporada regular.
Michael Jordan is the greatest player ever. Just watching him play, he had tenacity, he had focus, he had drive, he had vision. And Kobe emulated his game after Mike. He did everything Mike did, walk like him, talk like him. He did everything. He loved Mike. So, you know, the ability to go against him that day, just him versus Mike, he lived for stuff like that. So I remember that game. You know, he just, listen, he wasn't calling no plays, and every time Mike scored, he knew he had to score. Whatever Mike was doing, he had to do it or outdo him. That's what you do when you go up against a great player, a.k.a. your idol. You gotta let them know that you're coming to take their spot.
Se juzga a las superestrellas de la NBA por sus campeonatos. En 1991, Michael Jordan y los Bulls consiguieron su primero, derrotando a los Lakers que tenían a Magic Johnson. Pero para algunos fue el paso de una gran dinastía a otra. Pero ahora llega un nuevo desafío desde Los Ángeles. Los nuevos Lakers, un equipo joven que esta noche confiará en los saltos de Kobe Bryant. El último baile, Chicago Bulls vs Utah Jazz. En una final de cuento, Michael Jordan anota el tiro que decide el sexto partido de las finales de 1998. Le proporciona su sexto título y lo consolida como uno de los más grandes de todos los tiempos. Finales de la NBA, partido 6, 14 de junio de 1998.
Stars make every player on the team better. Michael Jordan, his ability to challenge himself, his natural ability physically of being able to play with such great energy, his intelligence, basketball intelligence, all those things I think were remarkable. I enjoyed coaching Michael Jordan because he had a respect for coaches and he had a desire to play at a peak level, and he's willing to follow instructions without, wanting to over-dominate the game. Even as a young player, there were times in the fourth quarter where he would make up the difference in a ball game. on his own. I had to bring Michael in my office and say, Michael, when's the last time someone who led the league in scoring won a championship? Thought about it a bit. He said, Rick Barry. I said, yeah, that's right, in the 70s. But it's very rare that person that wins scoring championship is also on a championship team. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to move the ball around, and we're going to take the spotlight off you all the time and involve the other players on your team. He said, oh, you're going to have that equal opportunity offense. Well, what's going to happen when the 24-second clock gets under 5 seconds? We'll coach the players how to get the ball to you in that particular time so you can activate the ball. Save that terrific scoring ability for the fourth quarter. He laughed, and he accepted the responsibility. And the other thing that we did is we moved him from a guard to a forward position. We really wanted to win the series in Chicago, game 5, and we lost this game, and we flew out to Utah to play the 6th game, and Michael said, we're going to end it tonight. You guys get ready for this ball game because we're not going 7. Going into the game, we kind of knew what we had to do to win the game. You had to play close, but come out and win the game in the last 5 minutes. The timeout that I did take with about 40-some seconds to go. That was the key, because knowing Jerry Sloan and having coached against him many times, I knew that if we could go down and score and make it a one-possession game, that he wouldn't call a timeout. We'll run the open. Dennis will, run a pick or set a pick or slip a pick, depending upon what Ostertag does. And Michael, you could double back on Malone if you have the ability. You saw the crowd rise behind that whole activity. You could see the anticipation that they had that this was a crucial moment. Michael changed the idea and pulled up for the jumper instead of taking it to the hoop and finished it. We called that season The Last Dance, and I thought, for an ending of a career, there could have been nothing sweeter than what Michael had just done.
Bienvenidos a esta retransmisión de la NBA. Toda la acción en este domingo por la noche aquí, en 2K Sports. Soy Sixto Miguel Serrano y me acompañan Jorge Quiroga.
Las buenas
y
historias siempre son improvisadas. El partido 5 de las finales de la NBA no fue una excepción. De hecho, puede que cambiara el rumbo de la serie. Michael Jordan se pasó toda la noche fallando. Mientras tanto, Karl Malone empezó a encontrar el ritmo, anotando 39 puntos. Con una ayuda inesperada, el ala pivot Antoine Carr, que salió de la segunda mitad, tuvo 5 intentos de tiros de campo y los anotó todos. Los Bulls no terminaron de rematar, así que hemos vuelto a Utah para el partido 6 a continuación.